Do you have any idea? Yes. uh, Anybody else? Yes. And there's one more? Yes. I like your line of thinking. Yes, so I like cooking. Outside of being a product marketer, I also like cooking, but I never stay like very religious to the recipe. So I research, let's say that I want to cook something new. I research the recipe and I see the ingredients, I see what I need to do, and then I'm like, okay, let's get creative. So I know what result I want to get to, but whatever happens in the process, it's up to me. So for example, if I'm cooking soup, and let's say it's chicken soup, but I don't have chicken at home and I have tofu, I'm going to use tofu, right? And you probably do the same. If you are baking a cake and it calls for strawberries, but you hate them, and it's, I don't know, February, so you don't have strawberries, then maybe you will use blueberries because you could find them on the counter. And that's the mindset I want you to start this presentation with. Everything I will show you in a few minutes is an inspiration. So I didn't use the term playbook or a guide because I don't want you to feel like this is a mandatory step. This is exactly what you need to do. You need to follow X, Y, Z because otherwise it won't work. So keep that in mind. Whenever you see the next slides, think about it like, oh, so it sounds interesting, but let's think about it. Does it make sense in my particular situation? So you need to adjust everything that you will see in a minute to your situation, which is not perfect because no situation is perfect, right? So we are going to walk through a little bit of like a perfect scenario of a product launch, but no product launch is perfect. And I will tell you a little bit about, let's say, adventures I had along the way. So remember, it's an inspiration, not a step-by-step guide, although there will be steps. But remember that you need to choose how fast you want to run and which steps you want to take and which steps you want to skip. I think we can start after this short introduction. So a little bit about myself, for those of you who don't know me. I'm Daria Love, and before you ask, yes, it is my real last name. I didn't make it up. I stole it from my husband. My husband is Irish, I married him, and I stole his last name. So that is the story. I'm a product marketing and go-to-market strategy consultant with over 13 years of experience, and I worked with many organizations, big and small, but mainly sales-led B2B SaaS. As you can see, my main areas of expertise are product marketing, positioning strategy, and go-to-market strategy, but with a strong focus on cross-team collaboration. So one thing that you won't see in this presentation is how to run a marketing campaign. And most probably, many of you, when you were coming here, you had this maybe expectation, maybe feeling that I will tell you how to create a marketing campaign plan and how to run it. But we won't do that here because there are a lot of things within the product launch plan that have to happen before you even get to the marketing campaign. And everybody's talking about marketing campaigns, so I'm not going to. You are going to learn everything what happens before that, but it's very important. But people keep quiet about it, so I'm not going to. And why am I here? There are three main reasons. Number one is because I like helping others. And I like helping people avoid mistakes that I already made in the past, so you don't have to. Number two is because I reach out to Błażej, And he agreed for me to come here. And number 3 is because, as I said, I have over 13 years of experience working with B2B SaaS organizations. And back in 2023, when I was head of product marketing at Agorapulse, which is a social media management and analytics platform, one of the product launches that I led back then was nominated to the product launch of the year by Product Marketing Alliance. And based on that experience, and then many, many more experiences that I had along the way, I'm going to tell you what is my formula for a successful product launch and what I think is important to pay attention to when you are planning one. And then along the way, I also had some observations, talking with founders, with CEOs, with companies, with product marketing teams. And by the way, I will use the term product marketing very often, but don't worry. If you don't have a product marketing function at your companies, marketing is enough. So you can think of marketing when I say product marketing. If you don't have even the marketing department, then you as a founder, you are the marketing and product marketing department. So you need to keep that in mind as well. So number 1 observation that I have is that building great products is not enough anymore. Think about 10 years ago. Companies were competing with technology because it was tough to hire the right talent, to build fast, to ship fast, so that was the competitive edge. Today, you have AI, you have vibe coding, you have like whatever you want, you have access to all the talent, so technology is not that competitive anymore. Number 2, this is my favorite, because I heard that from many product managers that products just sell itself, but it doesn't. The fact that you will push your product to production doesn't mean that your customers would start using it and that somebody will want to buy it. So that's why you need to think about your go-to-market strategy from the very beginning of this process. But the problem is that going to market is freaking hard today. And part of this reason is the AI, in my opinion, that makes it easier and harder at the same time. It makes it easier because you can open whichever chat and say, please create for me a template of a landing page or an email or whatever, but at the same time, everybody does it. So all this content is exactly the same. And you don't want to be the same like everybody else. And there will be a presentation about that from Diana later on. So I will keep it for her. But it is not easy today. So now you're like, okay, Daria, so are we doomed? Does it even make sense to sit here if everything is so crazy and difficult? No, you can relax. We are going to get there. You just need to get prepared, like everything in life. And that's why we're here. And that's the good first step to get prepared. So what do you need to do? In my opinion, there are 5 important actions, elements of successful product launch that you need to be mindful about and to consider. Number 1, bring alignment. Number 2, get strategic. Number 3, be prepared. Number 4, execute. If you do all the steps before but you don't execute, doesn't count. And number 5, never stop launching. And we'll get into details of every element in a sec. Do you remember at the beginning when I told you that this presentation won't be about a marketing campaign? So that's why you see this slide here. This is the most important part of the product launch. If you don't start here, it will bite you in whatever it will bite you to later on. Like at the end of the process or in the middle of the process, you will find these problems if you don't take care of these aspects at the very beginning. And by very beginning, I mean when you are starting to think about building your product, not releasing your product. So what is the #1 rule of having a successful project? Do you know? Apart from knowing, like, what's the project about, what you want to achieve? So what do you need to do to make it happen, to make sure that it will happen? Any ideas? You have a hint on the presentation. Yes, you need a plan. Once again? Okay. Bingo. Someone responsible. Someone who will take care of that. Do you remember all the trainings for how to, about first aid? What do they say? Like, if you are on the scene of an accident, you don't say somebody call the ambulance. You say you call the ambulance. Because if you say somebody, nobody will do it. It's exactly the same with a product launch. If you say, we're launching, but, you know, everybody will do something, I guarantee you, nobody will do anything. Or they will do something, but do we hope for something? I don't think so. So it's very important to start with assigning a product launch owner. If it's you who is the founder and you don't have a product marketing team, a marketing team, you need to take the ownership of that. Next, you need to start aligning stakeholders as early as possible. And by as early as possible, I mean whenever you start creating scope of your product, whenever you are in the ideation stage, not when you are a week before release and you come to your marketing team or to product marketing team and you say, hey, marketing, you know what? Next week, we're going to launch it. Do your marketing magic. Don't do that, please. Let them know earlier. Another thing you need to be clear about is your launch goals. And this is the tough part, because especially if you are a young company and you are launching something for the first time, you maybe don't know what your launch goals should be. But sit for a minute and think about it. You probably have some goals from your investors. Maybe you see some benchmarks in the industry, so you want to be like XYZ company. So think about it, be ambitious, but also be able to iterate and to adjust your goals to whatever happens in the meantime. Because normally, when you start building your product, by the time you launch it, it's at least a few months. So things can change. So be mindful about it. Also change your plan. And the key point to being aligned is communication. It's not enough to say once that, hey guys, we're planning to launch something in 6 months from now. And then you get back to them in 5 months or 6 months and tell them, oh, you remember, like 6 months ago, we told you we're launching this, so now we are. But many things could have changed during that time, right? You need to let them know about everything that is changing. If your expectations are changing, if your dates are changing, you need to let your internal teams know. Do you know this game? Anybody? It's called Exquisite Corpse. Although my daughter calls it just a drawing game, I prefer this name, and we play that game sometimes. So the rules of this game are that you fold a piece of paper in 3 parts, 4 parts, and you have 3, 4 players, and everybody sees only their part of the paper. They don't see the rest. but they have to draw a picture together, not knowing what's on the rest of this paper. And this is how many companies are building their go-to-market strategies. So they have all these teams. You have product management, you have product marketing, you have customer-facing teams, you also have maybe management board, CEO. Everybody's drawing their own picture. Then you put it together, and you have this. If you have an idea for how to name this creature, I welcome all the ideas. I didn't have a perfect name for it, so that can be a homework. So we don't want that. We want everybody to draw the same picture. And I usually make this metaphor that it should be like putting puzzles together, not like playing exquisite corpse. Because when you put puzzles together, every piece has to match the next. And then at the end, you have one picture that looks in a way that you know how to name it. And here, you know. So next, when you are aligned, it's time to get strategic. And number one thing you need to understand is what's your positioning and messaging. These are the two terms that are very often mistaken. So people think that positioning and messaging is the same, basically. It's not, and I'll explain in a sec what it is. But one important thing to know is that whether you work on your positioning or you don't, you have it. The difference is that you just don't get to define it, and that is not ideal, I would say. So positioning should answer to questions: what is it? Who is it for? What problems are we solving? What is the value? And what is differentiated value? Because you never sell in a silo. It's always you versus something. And by something, I mean, you need to really answer the question, what would your customers do if your product solution didn't exist? Which means that it's not only your direct competitors that you need to take into account, but, for example, them using email to send something versus doing something in your SaaS platform, maybe making a phone call, maybe hiring more people, maybe using 3 different tools together. So think about all the possible scenarios that your customers can use to fulfill the job that they need to get done. So that is positioning. It answers the question, what is it, who is it for, and how is it different than alternatives? And when you know all of that, then you can work on your messaging. And messaging explains how you communicate your value to your customers and prospects. Then we also have copywriting. That's a sister of messaging. And copywriting tells you how you communicate about it. So I would say that messaging is your internal document. So it's like a base that you can then send to the copywriter, and they will create this appealing copy. Number 2, pricing and packaging strategy. This is something I saw so many times that it hurts me, that companies leave this part of their strategy till the very, very end of the product launch process. So it's like, oh, we're launching something next week. And marketing is like, we need to update our pricing page, right? Yes. Oh, but where should we put it? What's the price? What's the package? And then nobody knows. And then they're just running like headless chickens because they need to figure it out at the very last minute. But you don't have to do that. You can think about it proactively. So do your research, understand who you're competing with, what is the price of alternative solutions or price of inaction, and decide mindfully and experiment. So don't think about it as once done and we're sad, we cannot change anything. If you, along the way, find out during experiments that we should change your pricing and packaging. That happened to the company I worked with. So we launched a product, the one that was nominated to Product Launch of the Year. We launched it twice. First time, there was no product launch owner, there was no pricing strategy, and it was just experiments and covered with experiments. And what happened was that we didn't see adoption. And you know why? Because somebody figured out, they came out with an idea that it will be good to give access to this product only to some exclusive group of customers. And everybody else would have to pay a lot of money to get access to it. But it was new to them. So they didn't really understand why they should pay this money. So next time, when we're launching it again, we decided to give access to like limited version of this product to a wider group of customers. We showed them the initial value, and then they were interested in trying more. They saw that, oh, it saves us so much time. So now we have some business case that we can show to our CEO, to our CFO, so they approve this cost. Number 3, you need to understand your product launch scope and assign budgets. Another tricky thing. When it comes to product launch scope, we'll go into more details during our workshop, but I will also show you a simple product launch tier metrics that you can use, and then the budgets. You will have to fight for budgets probably with other teams, with your CFO. You would explain to them why you need all this money, and sometimes companies are reluctant to assign specific budgets to product launch campaigns, but I encourage you to do so. Even if it won't be perfect and you will change on the way, it will be some point of reference. So secure the budget at least for the most important things, and then you can worry about the rest later, or just have more time to convince whoever you need to convince to get more money later. But please think about it at the very beginning. And here I put it as number 4, but in reality, it's something that should be ongoing. So not only here for this part, but in general, do your research all the time. You need to understand, as I said, who you compete with. So your competitive landscape should be on your radar all the time. It's not like, we are going to create a presentation that is 6 months old, and then it's 1 year old, and then it's 5 years old, and we're just going to go like this. Because, as you know, everything is changing all the time. Another thing that companies don't do is the naming research. Who is using ChatGPT? Great. What version of ChatGPT are you using? Do you remember the names? How do you like the names? Does it tell you? Like, what's the value? What's the difference between this and that? You know what's my theory? I'm pretty sure that what happened was that they had some projects assigned within their engineering teams, and they chose this name. So there was an engineering manager, and he was like, oh, this is 0.27.58. Great, so we'll use it. And then they didn't change the name, and it became market-facing name. Is it easy to remember? Does it tell you why you should use whichever version? Yes. But they are Google. So they actually, yes, but you're right, it's possible to change that. But you need to think about it, it's a costly procedure. So it's better to think about it from the very beginning when you're building your brand, when you're communicating about it, when you talk about it with your internal teams, because they will get used to the name you give them first. And then what will happen, you will have a different name in your sales presentations. different name on the website, different name in the product, and customers maybe will use a totally different name. And you don't want that because you want your brand to be consistent. Unless you're Google, as you said. And in fact, the brand they built is Google, not Gemini. Gemini is by Google, everybody knows that. So whether it's Bart by Google, Gemini by Google, everybody knows Google. But if it was a startup, who was Bart 6 months ago, and then they changed the name to Gemini, everybody would think it's a new company. Nobody would think that, oh, so it's just Bart. They wouldn't have that connection, and this company would have to spend a lot of money on launching it again and having a branding campaign that costs a lot to make people remember this new name. And another thing you really need to understand is your customer segments. And by that, I mean that having your ICP, which is ideal customer profile, that defines vaguely what are the characteristics of the business that you want to sell to, that will see the value of your product, is not enough because it will be too general. So you need to sit down and think about the segments of your targeted market that you want to talk to, because they will have some specific needs. They will have some specific use cases. And this is, my dear, personalization. It's not putting hi first name in your email. It's knowing what specific pain points and solutions you have for them. So they don't feel like you talk to everybody and to no one at the same time. And as I mentioned, so here is the launch tier metrics. And this is a tool, a framework, that will help you decide what should be the scope of your product launch. You can see different criteria taken into account. When you think about it, tier 1, think of a really big campaign. Tier 2, a bit smaller. And tier 3 is like, I call it business as usual. Because these are the tools, the features that you just have to build to stay in business. So they will help you keep existing customers so they don't leave you for competitors that offer something essential and you don't. And then when we're thinking about tier 2, you can have different business goals. So you want to keep your existing customers, but at the same time, you want to be innovative. You want to create something new that didn't exist in the market yet. And if you want to do both, so you want to keep your customers, but also win new customers and be innovative, then you get into this tier 1 category. We'll go into details of that during the workshop, so don't worry, you will get all the framework and documents. You will be able to save it and take it with you. Number 3, I know sounds scary, be prepared. But you always have to be prepared, and I think that that's the part of the product launch that also has to happen all the time. Very important thing, that product launch process should be an integral part of your product development process, of your product lifecycle. So as I said, you don't think about it at the end of the process when you are about to release something to production, but it's a natural step. So then when you make it a natural step, what happens is that your product managers have a habit to share information internally with the stakeholders they need to talk to. You don't have to remind them about that. Everybody is informed, everybody knows what's going on, and you have time to plan everything. Number 2, and this is something that we'll be doing during the workshop, is developing a product launch plan. And I use the word actionable because it has to be actionable. I mean, you really have to have a list of actions you need to take to get to your goals. Number 3, this is one of my favorite tools for product launches, but also for project management in general, and we'll get into details in a second. And it will help you to manage responsibilities of everybody involved. And number 4, something that I rarely see happening is risk assessment for product launches. And I learned that hard way why I started doing this. Because once we're launching an integration with a very big partner. And what happened was that our big marketing campaign, enablement campaign with like 200 ambassadors and all of that was stopped a day before the launch by the press release that wasn't reviewed by the PR team from our partner side. So they emailed us and said, you cannot communicate anything tomorrow, even though we talked about it for the past 6 months, because our PR manager didn't have time to review your press release. So we had to implement an emergency plan. We had to contact all the ambassadors, tell them that, no, we know you were supposed to post something and send some emails in 3 hours, but, well, you cannot do it. We'll do it, but we don't know when, because we're waiting for some press release to be accepted. We also had to inform internal teams, also had to do it in the way that they don't get scared and they don't feel like, oh my God, everything is crazy, it's a mess, and we don't know what we're doing. So it was interesting, to say at least. And for every other product launch, but don't go too crazy, like I'm saying tier 1, tier 2 maybe, I had risk assessment plan and risk management plan. So I try to understand what could be the different scenarios, what happens if we don't have something crucial for the launch, and that we know what to do. And here's one of my favorite topics. Product release versus product launch. And as you can expect, because I put versus in the middle, it's not the same. So on the left-hand side, you can see the product release process. You can also think about it as just product development process. So you see all these stages: ideation, exploring, discovery, scoping, development, testing, release. All the, I would say, boring stuff, but I like my product management friends, so I won't say that. And then on the right-hand side, you have product marketing part or just product launch part. And you see research, strategy, enablement, customer launch, market launch, post-launch. So do you see this arrow here? That's what I said. When that happens, when most product marketing managers or marketing managers, internal teams are notified just before or, God forbid, after the release, it's here. It's when they come and say, oh, we're launching something tomorrow. But the reality is that they should join the process in the ideation stage so they can help them with the research. And then you have the coherent strategy because you know exactly who the product is built for and what is the value from the get-go. Another question to you. What do you think? Do you need to have your product developed or ready for release to launch it? What do you think? Who thinks that it's the case, that you have to have the product developed, ready for release to launch it? Hands up, nobody? Who thinks that it doesn't have to be developed? Okay. There are some people that didn't decide which way to go. So that's the part that is very often a surprise to product managers and to product development folks. That you don't have to wait for your product to be ready to launch it, to launch the campaign, to start communicating about it. I know everybody's scared about ETAs. There was a time when every time when I would go to product development, product management meeting, I would come only with one question. What's the ETA? And they would be like, We don't know. And even if they did, they didn't want to share that because it was commitment. So they felt like they're committing to some date they don't fully control, because it's usually controlled by engineers. And we all know nobody has power over engineers, right? So if you don't want that to happen, you need to work together from the very beginning. Then the date is not a problem. Then the product marketing will come and tell you, that's the date. Because we took many aspects into account. Because the development date is only one of the criteria we take into account. But we also checked, what is the good date for our market? Maybe there is a big event happening, and it would be good to go there and announce it at the event because people will be there. Maybe the release date is just before some big holiday. Nobody will be around, so it doesn't make sense to launch then. There are many aspects that you need to take into account when you are deciding on the date. So if you work from the very beginning of the process together, then it is not a problem anymore. Nobody's scared when they're asked about the date. And here's the RASI matrix I told you about. Who's using RASI matrix? Anybody? 1 person, 2, 3, 4, 5. Great. It's a very simple tool, but in my opinion, very powerful and overlooked. It makes managing a product launch process much easier, especially if you really understand who should be consulted and informed, and make it clear that they don't get to make the final decision, which means that you take what they say into account, but they don't decide at the end. And it's very important to be mindful about these parts. And I usually put everybody into informed category because, as we talked at the beginning, communication matters. But be very mindful about the consulted part. You don't want to consult everybody at your company. You don't want to go to every person and ask them, oh, what do you think about our messaging? What about our launch plan? You don't want that. So be mindful about this part. And as I said at the beginning, if you do all of that, but you don't execute any of that, doesn't matter. So execution is the key. And as you can see, marketing campaign is only a small part of execution process. In my opinion, the most important part is internal enablement, especially if you work at a sales-led organization. If you don't enable your internal teams, you won't be able to see the impact of your product development. And by enabling, I mean making them feel comfortable talking about your product. They know what it is, they know how to present it. They don't have to get back to you with every little question when they're on a call with a customer. It will be less work for you, and it will be easier and more comfortable for them. Then you also need to enable your customers and prospects. So what we all want when you are launching a product, I would say that there are two main goals, and is to sell it and then to drive adoption and retain it, obviously. But if you work on driving adoption, then retaining is much easier than if you don't. And you need to make sure that your customers will know how to use it, how to make it a part of their everyday workflow. So then when they're waking up in the morning, they go to work, they open their laptops, and they think, oh, I need to do XYZ. This is the tool that makes it easier for me. So it's a natural step for them. It's like when you need to send a message to someone, you don't think like, oh, what should I do today? Maybe I will write a letter. Maybe I will call someone. You usually just send an SMS. Or you just send an email when you are at work. Like I send emails if I need to contact someone. So you have some way that you are used to. It's a natural part of your workflow. And that's where you want to get. That your customers see your solution as a natural part of their workflow. And number 3, targeted marketing campaign. And it's targeted because you already worked on your segments. So you know exactly who you are selling it to. It's not talking to everybody. I love these pages, home pages, where they say, we sell to all companies across all the countries, across all the industries. You don't want to be that, trust me, unless you're Google. Google sells to everybody. But I guess you are not. I didn't see anybody from Google on the list. So you want your campaign to be targeted. You want to know who you are talking to and how to talk to them. And you want to make them excited about it, which means that you really nailed the problem, you really nailed the solution, and they just can't wait to try it out because they feel like, oh my God, it's such a pain point. I don't want to do that this way anymore. I don't want to do it manually, so I can use this. Can't wait. And number 4, always be launching. That means that your launch process doesn't end when you release your product, when you send all the communications, when you already publish all your marketing assets. It means that is an ongoing process. So you plan it, you execute it, but then you also measure, learn, and iterate, and again. So it's never ending. And a bonus point, if you launch something and you won't see the results you wanted to see, you can just launch it again. Nobody will know, I promise. There are so many things that are happening, so many products that are being launched, that it's only up to you. That's what we did at the company I worked with in the past. We just launched again, and the results were what we hoped for the first time. But the first time, we just didn't do it right. And when I'm talking about good product launch process, because it's not only the plan, it's the process. In my opinion, it should be predictable, which means that everybody knows what to expect, when to expect it. Scalable, that means that now maybe you are launching something smaller, but all the foundations are here. So then when you launch something bigger, only the scale is different, but the process doesn't really change that much. And repeatable, which means that every time when you need to launch something, you don't have to sit down and be like, oh, so what do we do now? We already launched 5 products, but we don't know how to do it because we didn't document anything, we didn't learn from the previous processes, we didn't iterate. You need to make it possible to feel it natural for everybody. So when you launch your product number 6, your feature number 6, everybody knows what is going to happen. And remember that it's a marathon, not a sprint, which means that you don't plan just for this short marketing campaign that will be maybe happening for 2 weeks, for a month, and then done, we can go home. It's a marathon. So you need to, like for the marathon, you need to get prepared, you need to run it, and you need to maintain your energy to be able to finish it. And then you rest a bit, and you train for another marathon, and go again. So like with product launch. So that's the first part of our meeting. And then we'll go to the workshop. But before we go to the workshop, let me know if you have any questions or any feedback you would like to share, anything that you think I'm wrong about. I would love to hear that too. I love learning new points of view. So who wants a mic to say something?
Thank you very much. I've prepared some questions for you, and of course, if you have the answers prepared for the workshop stage, then let's skip them. But my first question is, what tools and techniques and frameworks do you use to assess the risks regarding the product launch?
What I use to assess the risk?
Yeah, what tools, techniques, frameworks, how do you assess the risk?
So as you assumed that it will be part of the workshop, it will be part of the workshop. But I don't go like very crazy or into some very detailed, complicated frameworks. I usually just start with a simple SWOT analysis. And then from there, I go into a list of the risks that I was able to detect and create a plan for each of them. So then if this happens because we know that this is the threat that we're able to detect, we are going to do this. So that's the simple way that I usually use.
Okay, thank you. The second questions I have is how do you feel about doing things that don't scale? And by this I mean offline things like pop-ups, unique outdoor campaigns, sponsorships and so on, which are not replaceable by AI today.
If it works for you, then all that matters.
Okay.
So, as I said at the beginning, we are in this digital era, but life is not only happening in a digital space, as you can see, because we're here. So it's an offline event, and usually it's hard to measure, as you said, it's much harder to measure effectiveness of an offline event. But from my perspective, it's also very hard to measure effectiveness of your digital actions as well, because you cannot really pinpoint what exactly led to somebody buying something, because it's a journey. So if you see that you're organizing an offline event, a stand, like some PR campaign, whatever, and it works for you because everything what you do matters. It's not like one single action was responsible for your success. It's a marathon. It's many actions, many small steps. So if you see that it works, at the end of the day, the sum of the actions that you're taking worked, it should be fine. The most important thing is that when you are deciding what to do, you're mindful about these fundamentals. So you know, like, oh, this even makes sense because our target audience is going to be there. So we know that we're selling something to CFOs, and this is a CFO summit, so it makes sense to go there, right? But at the same time, you need to be down to earth. So you don't want to go to, I don't know, if you sell to CFOs, you don't want to go to startup Harbour, I guess, because this is not really the audience that you can expect here. So that's my take, that everything what you do along the way matters. It's not like one single thing makes sense or it doesn't make sense.
Okay, thank you. I have two more questions left. And the third one is, what about giving access to an updated version if we have currently a product and then we are giving new release and then changing prices based on value it delivered to the users? Because what I see in most cases is that people are preparing for launch and basing many things on educated guesses. And for example, with OpenAI or the new AI companies like Windsor, for example, which is a code editor based on different AI LLMs, what they do is that they release the product for current users, let them get engaged, start using the product, and then they measure how much value does the new update gives to the people. And then they update the pricing. What do you think about this strategy, and maybe you know why it is so uncommon for now?
It makes a lot of sense when you don't have any other data to back it up with. So you need to start somewhere. You need to ship it to your customers to actually learn the value. Because as you said, if you don't, it's just educated guesses. I won't say that it's a good strategy for everybody. But if in your case, you cannot test it with some group of customers, some beta testers that you talk to, and you know that you can trust them and they will share your feedback and then you can learn what's the value, I think that just launching in public, making it free at the beginning makes sense. I mean, OpenAI was free for everybody, right? At the very beginning. And they built their base of customers and they built the value. And then nobody was questioning if they should pay for it. because it already became a natural part of the workflow. So they got used to it, as you said. They open their laptop and they want to learn something. They don't go to Google anymore. They just ask ChatGPT to tell them something. And they don't check the resources that they use, that are made up. So maybe you would like to do that. But yeah, every possibility that you have to get to your customers, to get in front of them, to show them the value, so then they don't hesitate to pay for it. Because if the value is there, they won't be like, oh, you know, it made my life so much easier. I saved so much money and time, but it cost $20. So I'm not going to pay that, you know? Like, it's all about the value that you create, which means that their life post adapting your feature, your product, is easier, and you make them save time, you make them save money or make more money. It's always about that, about time and money, in my opinion. All the tools. And then they see the value, and it just makes sense. Like when you see, like, okay, we spent, that's the experiment I did with my customers in the past. So I would tell them, okay, so you pay for this analytics tool $200 per month, let's say, $200. Do you know how much time it saves you per month on creating, analyzing your reports? Because you just get it in the tool. And they usually didn't know. So I would ask them, so can you guess it? Like, you know who does this in your company? So they would be like, let's say, in the past, Sam would spend 3 hours every week to get the report, to analyze it, and to get some insights. I'm like, okay, fine. So 3 hours per week. So that would be like 12 hours per month. And how much do you pay Sam per hour? And then they started calculating per year. And they were like, holy crap, we spend so much money on reporting. And companies just barely do that because they have Sam. Sam is there. Sam does it. But he could be doing something else. So when you show them that, okay, so you just calculated that before using that tool, you'd spend $1,000 per month. And now you can have the same done just for 200. It just makes sense. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does, and it also relates to how OpenAI managed the survey that they ask, because then when they give everyone the free access, then they later surveyed those users, asking them directly how much do they want to pay for the service, and then it happened that they even give everybody lower price than the median that they have in the surveys. So it was amazing tactic, and I do believe that it may appeal to some products. This is why I wanted to ask you. And the last questions I do have is, how do you find the perfect balance between creating excitement and at the same time managing customer expectations? Because especially in the gaming industry, I see this as a huge problem when people create this kind of huge hype and then does not deliver the value they kind of build as expectations.
How do you do that? By bringing alignment across all your teams at the beginning. So what I usually see, because you're talking about marketing teams creating hype over something, from my experience, marketing teams very often don't know what's the product. And that is the sad truth, and I wish I didn't have to say that, but that is the truth. If you don't have a dedicated product marketer at your company, there are high chances that your marketing team has zero idea about how your product works and what problems you're solving. They have their pitch deck, they have their great marketing campaign that is built on sometimes wishful thinking. It's like, I had a dream, pitch deck kind of thing. So what you want to do, you want them to be there from the very beginning so they know what we're selling and they keep it real. If you keep it real and you have the real value, the excitement will follow. You also need to remember about having your brand personality, which also can be exciting. So as you mentioned, gaming industry, I imagine that people are excited about games just because they like playing, right? So you don't really need to do much more outside of meeting their expectations and keeping it real. So they are excited and they want to do it, they want to play the game, versus, you will promise them that there will be, 7 different scenarios in the game that they will be able to play, and there will be 3 new characters, because that sounds good in the marketing campaign, right? But then they will open the game and they will be disappointed. So you don't want that. You want all of that to be aligned. And that's the balance for me. Just keep it real. If it's really solving their issue, if it's helping them to fulfill their need, it's going to be exciting for them. So,
Thank you very much.
thank you very much for your questions. Anybody else? Any questions?
What about marketing of the pre-sales?
Marketing of?
Pre-sales.
Pre-sales?
So you don't have product fully complete, but you want to sell it. So it called pre-sales, and basically this is a good example. Like you have, let's say, buying games even on Steam. Right now they limited the pre-sales, that if a game seller don't deliver full product within 1 year or 2, then they are banned from Steam. But basically, marketing for the pre-sales is quite hard, and sometimes the product doesn't fit, the marketing materials at the beginning.
I think your question is the answer to your question will be very similar to what I was replying just a few minutes ago. And also, I'm not sure if you were here when we're discussing the fact if you need to have your product ready to launch it. Because I don't know if you were in the room with us then. So the answer that we agreed on was that you don't need to have a ready-made product to launch it. But what you need to know is what is the value you are going to bring. And as I said previously, be aligned on that. So you need to keep it real. As you said, if something, also this thing happens with launch dates very often, that there is a delay. And you need to just communicate that to your internal teams, to the customers, just own it. Don't do it in the way that there will be a delay, but you are just trying to pretend that it's not the case. And yes, maybe we'll make it, maybe you'll make it. No, you won't make it. If you know today your engineering team are telling you that you won't make it, you won't make it. So just prepare for that. It's also about risk management. So one of the risks that I always have in my product launch brief under the risk management is the product won't be ready on time. What will we do? What will we do? We'll communicate about it. We'll tell the customers that this is the situation, we need a little bit more time, but maybe we can give them, a little discount on something. Or they will be able to use this product for free for a month or something like that. You need to just be honest about it and keep it real. Because what you said, that you promise something, that something will be ready, but then you don't deliver on this promise. And I always think about it as, what would I do in my personal life? So somebody is making a promise to you, I don't know, it's your birthday, and your mom says that she will make a birthday cake. And you get excited, right? Because it's going to be strawberry, and you love strawberries. And then it's your birthday, and you go there, and there is no birthday cake. And your mom is like, no, I'll make it. It'll be ready later. But she knows she doesn't have time. But she still says that she will make it. And you have this hope in you. It will be there. Yes, I will have this cake. And then what happens? There is no cake, and there is only disappointment. And your mom is like, nothing happened. You'll be fine. We'll get you cake next year. And how do you feel? How would you feel about that? It's like, it's not the first time you had the birthday, it's not the last time. We can make a cake next year. It's not a biggie, is it? Tell me. Do you trust me now? If I tell you next time that I will make a cake. Will you trust me? Will you believe me? Will you expect
Not
it? No, that's what I thought. You need to treat your customers like adults with respect. Your internal teams, the same. Treat them with respect. If something is not going to happen, tell them. If something is not in the scope of your product, tell them. If there are some limitations, tell them. You want to manage expectations in the way that when you launch it, when they get to try it, they are not disappointed. Because then we get to the value creation part. How are they going to see the value and how are they going to want to stay and pay for it later on if you start the relationship with disappointment?
Okay. And my second question is partially related to OpenAI, but also WordPress and similar brands, because OpenAI didn't, marketing, didn't do the good marketing job, and they, brand themselves as open source, and they will have a lot of law issue. They basically changed the board within last 6 months or 1 year to avoid hitting the main characters, let's say. And do you have some user examples or user cases for the good marketing of brand or product line, where you clearly separate what is the foundation or open source or free, yes, or from the donations, and what is the commercial part? And do we need 2 marketing teams and two marketing strategies for the whole brand if we want to avoid OpenAI situation and to have a clear situation and like one brand but 2 separate ways? Do we need some 2 basically marketing strategies and marketing team, or is it is?
Can you afford it?
Yes.
Can you afford it?
In most cases, we have like 0 marketing budget.
Yes, so you have your answer. You have your answer. I think that companies try to make things too complicated when they don't have to. So if you ask me if you need 2 marketing teams, if you need 2 marketing strategies, but then I ask you, can you afford it? And you say no. So this question basically doesn't make sense in this case. And also, when you want to have your strategy that is built of steps, so it means that you start with something. So you maybe build an open source solution, or it's a freemium, because this is your way of trying to attract the market. This is your way of trying to get in front of your customers. This is the way of trying to collect feedback, to iterate, and to just do it faster. But you should know at the very beginning, at this stage, that this is not your end game. Where we get back to the beginning of this presentation, you need to think about this when you start developing your product. You need to have your business go-to-market strategy in mind back then.
Okay, so basically, if we have one Twitter account, then one Twitter account.
Okay.
Then we just create, let's say, images or graphics, and then in the bottom line we say that this is from association, which get grant from European funds, and if it is from commercial sales, then we said this is about a company Ltd in UK, yes?
But why
and that will be enough?
I believe that you need to build a strong brand, and then how you sell it, like what is your, because it gets back to packaging in a way. So it should be visible to your customers, for example, on your website. And when you go to the website and you go to the packaging, you see that, okay, there is an open source package or like a free solution. And then there is maybe enterprise or pro solution. And whoever goes to your website, they should be explained in the way that they know it's for us. maybe I'm a startup, I cannot afford it, I'm a small company, I will go for the open source free solution. But I know I have a bigger need, I will go for enterprise. But I know I have these options. Maybe I will grow on the way. So I started with freemium and then I moved to enterprise. But I would rather, unless you are building for two totally different audiences, totally different markets. Like everything is so different that it just doesn't make sense to connect it, then don't make things more complicated than they can be. So don't put yourself into creation of new category because we have our own way of describing something. It will be just harder for you if you decide to build two products from the very beginning only because it's the difference of the size of the business you're selling to. It's just going to cost you more. So at the end of the day, your profit will be much less than it could be. And you will be less focused. Your communication will be all over the place. It will be scattered. You will go to the website and you will see things like, that's the case with the company I work with now. So you go to their website and you see like a gate. I call it a gate. So you see a gate and they're like, oh, so these are solutions for XYZ. These are solutions for something, something, and this is the third type of solutions. Now choose your gate. And then you are moved to the website of a product that you picked that has a totally different name, different branding. And I'm like, oh, didn't I try to check out the solutions from this company? And I'm like, now somewhere totally different. It's about being consistent, about being memorable. So your customers maybe will try this free version, but then they will move to the paid. But if you sell to the same ICP and only the scale is different, so let's say small software houses versus big software houses, doesn't make sense to create two different brands. That's my opinion. Thank you.
If I may, yes.
Yes.
So I have three questions. The first one is, what if, when it comes to this post-launch, yes? Mm-hmm. And what if you have the problem that you want to check adoption and you have no usage data, mm-hmm. and your team is not big enough to make follow-up calls to the clients? Is there some creative ways you can try to how to work with that? Yes.
The most creative way would be to build a time machine and to get back to the beginning of your product launch process and set up the tracking. So that's the most creative way. But we cannot do that. Unless you can, let me know. What would I do? Phone calls, as you said, it's time consuming. But what you can do, you can launch a simple NPS survey, for example. That will give you very broad understanding. If you get only 2s, then you will know. Well, not the most successful. But if you get to 10s, to 8s, and I also like building NPS surveys in the way where if somebody picks some score, then I ask them follow-up questions. So if they pick 2, I ask them, oh, so what happened? What was the biggest pain using this? Or if they pick 10, what did you like the most? If they pick 7, then I ask them, what could we improve? This is the easiest way that you can do. Because even if they don't answer the follow-up questions, you will still have the score. And normally I would tell you that the score doesn't matter that much, but in this case, it's good for testing if you have limited resources. And you didn't have the tracking, you don't have the team to follow up. The simplest thing you can do.
Okay. And when it comes to B2B products, what is
did it
Can
work?
you hear me? Okay.
Yes.
Because
But you need to start your question from the beginning.
Yes. Because what I see is that in B2B SaaS, Clients don't want to be called. They want it all to have in self-service. But if it's like, it's not a perfectly product-led business, it's a lame product-led business, and the conversion isn't great because the the product isn't so good. It always helps when sales calls and checks if the client has any problems we can solve. But clients often in SaaS, they want it in self-service. Yes, they expect it to be salesy, and they don't want it. So I've heard about a tactic that you actually give the free version, because I'm talking about a scenario of a free version. Yes, that you give the free version either just for 2 days, yes, or 3 days, like a very limited time. And then you communicate, okay, we will reach out to you after these 5 days, and you can have 1 month, but we just want to make sure if it makes sense for you. Or that the follow-up call is like qualifying, if that makes sense from the business perspective. Yes, that you call, you qualify on the phone, and only then it is granted. If the SaaS product, if the cost of the SaaS product make it rational, what would be your take with this problem of the friction? Yes, that the salesperson is like an obstacle in the buying process for the client.
You know why people don't like to talk to salespeople? Because they want to sell to them. And nobody likes to be sold to. So if you go to a call, and you even use this term, qualifying call. They go to the call and they're like, oh, what's your business size? How many employees do you have? What's your this? What's your that? You are just basically filling out some checklist. Nobody wants that. Like, think about your experience when you go to a doctor. And you want the doctor to learn what is your problem and then find a solution for you. You find some treatment. How would you feel if you went to a doctor and instead of them asking you, okay, so what did you come with today? How can I help you? They would be like, okay, so here's my checklist. So are you female or male? Oh, your age, you're this, you're that, like 100 questions. And then at the end, you would feel like, well, but I didn't even have time to tell you what I came with. And he's like, that doesn't matter, because from my checklist, I see that you should get this thing. And come back in a week. I will call you to see if it worked. If it didn't work, well, maybe it's not for you. But nobody cares about you. And that comes back to the enablement, that the sales people should be like consultants. They should go into a sales meeting and listen. They keep talking. We don't want them to talk all the time. What they should do, they should listen. So they should go and ask the question, okay, tell me about your business. And I guarantee you that people will tell you what are the pain points. And they just need to listen actively to be able to detect the issues that you can solve and then put it in the context. So you're like, oh, you told me that your main pain point is that you have to manage all this team manually and see all your designers' tasks one by one, so you don't know who's doing what, and it takes you ages. And the person will be like, yes, that's the worst part of my job. So I have a solution for you. You can have everything in one place, and you log in the morning, and you see, this is what your team is doing, this is the number of hours they spend on it, and you don't have to do it manually, you don't have to send emails, Slack messages, calling them, would you like that? And they'll be like, yes, I really want to fix that. And that is a different conversation than, okay, so what's your team size? 5. What do? They are graphic designers. Okay, what's your position? Oh, I'm junior graphic designer. Oh, well, I cannot talk to you. Can you connect me with your manager? Can we get to the discussion with somebody in charge? Because that's what usually happens when you are in B2B SaaS sales processes. Salespeople want to talk to decision makers. The issue is that before decision maker makes the decision, they don't really care about the issue. Their teams do. So you need to prove the value to the team. You need to make them the champion for you. So they will convince their boss, the decision maker, that it's worth to invest in your solution. And they will also adapt it. Because if you, on the other hand, if you force them, if you talk only to decision maker and you tell them, we are going to boost your ROI. Everybody wants to have higher ROI, don't they? And they're like, okay, great, so let's do it. I have a finance department meeting next week. I'm going to tell them we're going to save so much money. And then you go to the team, it's like, oh, so we're going to launch this. You have to use it from now on. And they will basically be like, what? We're not going to use it. They will just sabotage your product, your launch with this company. Nobody will want to use it. They won't adopt it. And then in 6 months, in 3 months, there will be another finance meeting. And there will be a question, oh, so we need to cut budget. What do we start with? Everybody starts with the tools. So let's make a list of tools. This is the list of tools. What do we use? What is absolutely mandatory must-have? And your tool won't be on the list. And guess what? And they will just stop paying you. So this is why you have to think holistically about your whole customer journey. That how, if they go to your website and they learn something from the website, and they feel like, oh, they talk about my pain points, about solutions. I'm so excited. I want to talk to the sales rep. And then they talk to the sales rep, and they're like, is it a Tinder date? They're checking if I'm a good fit for them. They're not trying to check if they have a solution for me, if they have something to offer. Then you will leave this call and you will probably never want to talk to the salesperson again, as you said at the beginning. So my solution is mindful internal enablement. You need to make your internal teams, especially teams that are customer-facing, that talk to your customers, to your prospects, experts, not only on the product, but especially on the problems, on the pain points, on the solutions. And in my opinion, the best salespeople are able to walk in the sales meeting, listen to the customer, listen about their pain points, and understand in the meantime that we don't have a solution for you. We can only solve part of your problem. And they're able to say, we cannot solve it for you, but there is a company XYZ who can. So go and use them. Because if you sell it to them anyway, and you promise something that you cannot deliver, they will churn anyway. So that doesn't make sense. So this, I would say, consulting way of selling makes the most of sense for me.
Okay, and again in B2B and trial web forms, yes.
Mm-hmm.
What if we know that the product is, it's not an enterprise solution, but it is, it costs so much that we know that clients are cracking it.
Mm-hmm.
So the company is trying to protect it and try to, I mean, so that the trial is controlled in a way that you have to add your work email and your tax identification number. Of course, it makes the web form longer.
What we all love.
Yeah, but yeah, what is your take on this? Yes, so assuming that you know that the product is cracked because it is great and it is relatively expensive. You've got a sales-led motion, so the people are calling the clients after they are downloading the free version, and you don't want to call everybody. So gating it with this extra data, with this extra layer of data, makes sense to you? What would you say?
By extra layer of data, you mean the form where they have to...
Okay, so that in the form you've got, okay, write your email, write your work email, and of course in the form you've got the company name and the tax number of identification.
So you say that if they want to try some more advanced part of your solution? They need to fill out the form, or
No, there's actually the free version. There's one free version. But since the product costs about 80,000 zloty, in a way it makes sense, yes? So that it is... because thanks to this extra layer of data, so this tax identification number, the person who checks if it's a client, because it can also be, there are many consumers as well, yes? So there's also this problem that someone didn't really get it and tried to use the product, but he's not a company. This is not the company we are selling to. It is not a company at all. So to make sure it is a real existing company, there's this tax identification number to make this qualification easier, pre-qualification actually.
so you want to make sure that people who get in touch with your sales department are your ICP, that these are the businesses that you want to sell to.
Exactly, to minimize, the risks, to filter out as many automatically as it's possible.
Be clear with your communications. That's what you need to do. Gating your forms with more fields won't help you if whatever you communicate about your product, your solution is misleading. So if somebody goes to your website and they know that it is not for them, that you state that, obviously, that, okay, and what happens if somebody... Sure.
Because it's a 3D visualization software for architects, yes? And the whole communication is that it is for architects, it is for professionals, just some people, that will build their own, make a renovation of their bathroom. They are looking for something.
Okay.
And they think, okay, they say it's super intuitive. They say, I can learn it really fast. I will give it a try.
Okay. But you also have a free version, right?
Yeah. I mean, no. It's a trial, yes?
Okay, free trial.
Free trial.
And the problem is that people create free trials and then are not your ICP, right? They're not your customers.
Yes, exactly. And well, these are the extra calls that the person needs to do, yes, on qualifying who is our client and who's not.
Okay. You could go into progressive profiling, so you can ask them more questions along the way. So let's say they create a free trial. And to do that, you request email address and name, maybe. But then they already open your application, and then you can ask them more questions. So before we start, we need more information about you. And you ask them 2 questions. Then they log in next time, you ask them another 2 questions. And you just basically fill out the profile in your CRM with this data, but you don't slap this long form in their face with the tax number at the beginning. So you can ask them. The simplest way thing you can do is whenever they're creating the free trial, you ask them, what do you want to do with your tool, with this tool? Like, what is your use case? And then you can give an option. I am renovating my apartment. I am an owner of a design studio. I am an architect. So you can just ask them who they are. They will tell you. If somebody's redesigning their bathroom, they most probably won't tell you they're an architect, although there might be people that will, but hopefully not. But that's the simplest thing you can do. You don't have to go into like extensive, long forms with tax ID numbers to learn that. That's what I would do. Okay. So I guess maybe we'll take like 5 minutes break. But before the break, I want to tell you, if you want to stay for the workshop, what you can expect from this workshop. So when I spoke with Błażej about the possibility of being here and what the value I could bring, number one thing I told him was that I want this to be practical, which means that I want you to leave this workshop with something that you'll be able to take with you and use it. It's not going to only be theory. There was theory in the first part, although I try to also share my practice with you. So everything you heard in the first part were things that I lived through. It's not the things that I read about, but things that I lived through. And all these briefs, frameworks are the things that I'm using all the time. At companies I work with, at companies I advise for. And I will share these assets with you. There will be a QR code in a second where you'll be able to go to the folder with all these templates and we'll be able to start working on it. And I want you to work on that. If you are here maybe as a team or you have somebody from your company that you want to work on with, that's a good idea. If not, you can start working on it on your own. And I will be joining you for a little while to see if maybe you have some issues, if maybe you would like to get clarification on something. One thing that I want you to not to do, to get overwhelmed by amount of stuff you need to prepare, because normally nobody does it within 1 hour. So just so you know, no, I don't expect from you that within 1 hour, I don't even know what time it is now. What time is it? 12:30. So we have, what time do we have? Oh, looks like we don't have time. Great, but so this is just in case you want to stay in touch with me, but I will help you with these templates anyway. So go to this link or to this QR code, and there is a folder with all the templates, all the briefs. So good thing is that there should be nothing surprising for you in those templates because we talked about everything already. And so you can start working with them. But if you have any questions or you need anything, I will be around. Is that okay? We just had a lot of discussions, but that's good. I think that's where the value comes from. So, thank you. So thank you for coming, for listening. I hope you'll forgive me that we didn't fully get into the templates part. But as I said, I will be around. If you have any questions, you can also contact me. This is my email address, or you can find me on LinkedIn. I also sometimes take community calls, so we can have a 30-minute call if you have something that you don't know how to do with the templates, then also you can let me know. I'll be happy to meet with you and explain. But I also build them in the way that are pretty much self-explanatory, so it should be easy for you to use them. They should put a big clock here in front that is ticking. It didn't. I'm sorry? No, that's fine. I always think that you would be able to really ask the question outside of here in this context, but you can always work on the template outside of here in a peaceful environment that is more realistic than trying to fill it out within 1 hour. Okay, I will stop talking. So thank you very much and have a great rest of the day.